The member for Hindmarsh.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, I present the Do Not Knock Register Bill 2012 and the explanatory memorandum. Deputy Speaker, it gives me great pride to introduce my private member's bill, the Do Not Knock Register Bill 2012. This bill establishes a register that will allow consumers to opt out of receiving door-to-door sales and marketing calls at their home. It is designed to address significant and sustained community concern about the impact of door-to-door sales door-to-door sales calls on home and family life. And Deputy Speaker, I've been contacted by many constituents in my electorate who have signed contracts that they were unaware of, who have felt the pressure on their front doorstep to sign certain contracts to buy certain things, products, telcos, energy companies, etc. And also I've received many calls who were referred to me by the Leon Biner program, and I'd like to thank Leon Biner and 5AA for their concerns on this issue, and many callers were referred to our office to investigate many of the door-to-door sales contracts that were signed by a lot of people that found out that they were signing something completely different to what they were being told. But Deputy Speaker, it also pursues one of the key objectives of the ACCC this year to address the unconscionable door-to-door selling. This bill will end any confusion, and it will give a clear legal obligation for companies not to knock on the door of people listed on the register. At the heart of the bill is the principle that everyone has the right to peace and privacy in their own homes. Too often these days, a knock on the door or a ring of the doorbell means an intrusion by a salesperson into our home and our life. And we've all experienced these feelings of dread when the doorbell rings, just as you sat down perhaps for dinner or reading the paper on a Saturday morning. There's someone there from an energy company or a phone company or an internet company, and you just know that they're going to try and sell you something that you probably don't want or need. As they start talking, you begin to wonder how you can politely ask them that you're not interested, but they are very persistent, and I think all of us have been through that. And before you know it, they're asking all about our energy company or your phone plan, what your current rate is, how much you pay, how much you consume, etc. Now, if you're assertive, as many of us are in this place, you might tell them that at that point that you're not interested, and that's fine for a lot of people, and they'll leave it at that. But for many consumers, that isn't the case. If you're elderly or living alone, it can be very difficult to say no to a pushy salesperson. And I've lost count, Deputy Speaker, how many times constituents have walked through my office door and burst into tears because they've been forced to pay for something that they don't want and can't even afford. Deputy Speaker, usually they come in with a bill or two, often a final notice, and they explain that they felt so much pressure to sign up that they did so, and now they're having trouble paying those particular bills. Often they've been the victim of misleading or deceptive conduct, like the promise of particular savings which never materialise. Deputy Speaker, frequently consumers and constituents tell me that they only signed up for the company because they felt quite intimidated by the salesperson and thought it was the only way to get them to leave. Usually these people are older, the elderly, people living alone or from other vulnerable groups, from the disabled, non-English speaking backgrounds. These people are specifically targeted. Now, unfortunately, with 1 in 5 people over the age of 65 in my electorate, Hindmarsh is considered to be a prime target area for door-to-door salespeople. It is also a very multicultural area with a big ethnic mix, and I've seen a lot of people who have limited English language skills become victims of high-pressure sales tactics and even outright deceit by salespeople. Deputy Speaker, in fact, until recently, my own mother used to have a new phone company every week, and I've had to teach her how to say no thank you to all the people who knock on her door, and she's quite good at it now. So this bill not only will protect the rights of all to peace and privacy in their own homes, but it will also help protect some of the most vulnerable people in our community. And we know that there is big community support for this bill, Deputy Speaker. As I said earlier, many constituents who have contacted me, media, a whole range of people saying that this is a good thing. And some recent research by the Consumer Law Group Centre found that 85% of respondents were in favour of a Do Not Knock register. They also found that only 3% of people have a positive opinion about door-to-door sales. 77% actively dislike door-to-door sales, and 56% of people feel the greatest pressure to buy from door-to-door sales reps as opposed to other selling environments. But best of all, we know that this particular model already works. The Do Not Knock register bill is based on the existing Do Not Call register, Deputy Speaker, which since its establishment has been overwhelmingly embraced by consumers and by telephone account holders. In November 2011, the total registrations hit 7 million people, which includes more than half of Australia's fixed-line home numbers. And not only has it been very successful in terms of take-up, but we know that it's very effective as well. In November 2011, 88% of people on that register, on the Do Not Call register, have reported a reduction on the number of telemarketing calls that they receive. The Australian Communications and Media Authority, which runs the register, have also had great success in pursuing breaches of the Do Not Call Register Act. Like the Do Not Call register, this bill also has hefty financial penalties for salespeople and companies who do not comply with the law. Penalties for breaching the provisions of the Act include infringement notices, injunctions and civil penalties. Deputy Speaker, it's important to note that this bill does not affect some key public interest organisations, including government bodies, charities, religious organisations, politicians and political candidates. It is specifically designed for those marketers that affect your back pocket. And nevertheless, we do not want to stop, for example, the Salvation Army from conducting their Red Shield appeal as they did, which took place over the most recent weekend. Deputy Speaker, for this reason, the Do Not Knock register, like the Do Not Call register, has special provisions for charities, religious organisations, educational organisations, politicians, to allow them to continue to make those calls. Since I first proposed the legislation, it's been greatly encouraging to receive an enormous amount of support, not only from my own electorate, but from people right across Australia, many emails, phone calls and letters to my office, and messages from people from all corners of our nation in support of this legislation. But the campaign has been building for some time. Consumer Action Law Centre's stickers based the Do Not Knock campaign have been so successful in the community already that it is being embraced by governments, including my own state government of South Australia. But until now, there has been some uncertainty about the legal status of those stickers. Deputy Speaker, the bill will end any confusion. It will end any confusion, give a clear legal obligation for companies not to knock on the doors of people who have opted to list on that particular register. Of course, the bill will build on the existing provisions in the Australian Consumer Law, which came into effect on the 1st of January 2011 and has done a lot to improve consumer rights. Under the ACL, door-to-door salespeople are restricted, as we know already, between 9 a.m. and 6 p.m, Monday to Friday, 9 a.m, 5 p.m. on Saturday. And this means even if you choose not to be on the Do Not Knock register, you are still provided with some protection against intrusion into your own home family life. Deputy Speaker, under the ACL door-to-door sales, people must also offer a cooling-off period, a set time frame in which you can return the goods and get your money back if you change your mind. And as of the 1st of January 2012, this is now 10 days, and this will apply to anyone who does conduct door-to-door sales in the future. Deputy Speaker, and if the salesperson doesn't tell you about the cooling-off period, you're entitled to an even longer cooling-off period. These are good things that have come into place, and I'd like to acknowledge the Minister who's here in the chamber with us today. So there are a number of very important elements within the ACL that will provide key protections to even those who choose not to register with the Do Not Knock register. Deputy Speaker, as I said, I'd like to thank all the community members in Hindmarsh who contacted me over the years to tell me about their experiences with the door-to-door sales, the many constituents, the letters, the emails that I received by many people who told me of their plight and their story of how they were felt pressured into signing a contract only to find out that the telco they've gone with is double the price, or the energy company is far more expensive. But, Deputy Speaker, the calls of all these people, the letters, their calls to the Leon Biner Show on 5AA, that we investigated many of them, have not gone unnoticed, and today is their day, and I commend this bill to the House.